Hey, what's up? It's Boss. Today we're talking about drip irrigation, and I'm going to show you how I built my system, some of the pieces I use, and give you some tips that'll hopefully make it easy for you to build your own. Let's get started. So there's a couple of different things I want to show you first. For your supply line, you're going to use 1/2-inch PVC tubing. This comes in different rigidities. I usually get the stuff that's a little bit more rigid. It seems to hold up better, but it's harder to work with. It comes in a roll, and you're often going to want to have nice straight runs. So I'll show you a tip on that in just a minute. There's also the supply line here that has drip emitters built in. So this little black slit here is, I think, a 1/2 gallon per hour, if I remember right, emitter. So you can actually water things directly from your supply line as well. Then you have the 1/4-inch tubing that you'll use for your drip emitters themselves. So this stuff, again, comes in different rigidities. It's cheap. You can find it at, your big box store, garden supply, landscape supply. You can get it on Amazon. You can get all this stuff on Amazon. So I'll leave links below to some of the stuff that I use, but really use whatever you can find and afford. Those are the main types of tubing you use. I'm going to show you in just a second some of the other tools, and then we'll head outside. All right, so to connect your supply line together, you're going to use these flanged connectors. They're, again, meant for the 1/2-inch piping or tubing. And you just push the tubing over this, and because it has that flange there, it'll hold it in place. There's also splicers, right, to put two pieces together. There's elbows, there's T's. You're also going to want to get these 1/4-inch barbed connectors. These are used to connect your emitter lines, the 1/4-inch tubing. You'll put the barbed end here directly into your supply line, and then you can run a emitter line off of either side. These come in all the same shapes and configurations as the other connectors. You're also going to want to get some drip emitters. I use these type the most. These are like sprinkler heads, so they've got a twistable, adjustable head for how big of a spray you want. They shoot out in a star pattern. I like these a lot because they cover a wider area, and you can put a lot more water through them while still keeping a slow enough drip to feed your plants appropriately. There's also these little, kind of hard to see here, but these are flow controlled drip emitters. So it has a barbed end that you could put into some of the 1/4-inch tubing, or you can actually attach this directly into the supply line if you want, because it has that barbed end. But it also has a little flange here meant for the 1/4-inch tubing. This one in particular is 1 gallon per hour. So it's marked on the side. So if you really want to get scientific and control how much water is coming through your system and dripping to your plants, there is different denominations of these, that anywhere from 1/4 of a gallon an hour up to 2 gallons an hour are the most common ones. But that's an option too. I use those in a few spots, specifically like around flower beds. But these are the two main emitters we're going to use for this build, as well as some of that drip emitter tubing. So there's a few other tools I should mention. These little figure eights, and actually this cap here, twist off cap, pressure attachment for the supply line. For the figure eight, that's actually a cap too. What you do is at the end of your run, if you put one loop over and then bend this, that'll actually cap off your supply line. I'm just going to go ahead and tell you, while you can use these and you can use these, I don't. There's no need. I'll show you what I'm going to do. It's a little bit the stronger way to close these off. There's also this tool. It comes in a lot of different looks, but this is meant for pushing the barbed connectors, the 1/4-inch barbed connectors, into the supply line that you're attaching your 1/4-inch tubing to. This will help save your hands. Otherwise, you're doing a ton of pushing small plastic things into other plastic things using just brute force. It'll tear your hands up. I don't use that either. Use the tools that are available, especially if you care about taking care of your hands. Don't be me. All right, so you got to have a plan. I've made a quick, excellent diagram of my yard, perfectly to scale. That's why I use graph paper. House is here, hose is here. I've got 2 rows of 7 grow bags here, 3 rows of 7 grow bags here. I have a raised bed that's 4x4, two 2x6 raised beds. I have gardens that go around the back perimeter of the yard. And then there is another raised bed over here with a few grow bags. So I need 3 zones. I'm going to put my little control box here. That'll control my 3 valves for 3 zones. My first zone will be run here. I think I'm going to go to the back of the raised beds. I've got a nice supply line there. My second zone will be for both sets of grow bags. So I'm going to run a supply line out here, right down the middle of those grow bags. And then from the other side of that same zone, I'm going to run a loop down that goes between the aisles here. And that'll be my second zone. And then my third zone is going to use pieces that I already have in place from previous installations. Go along the back for all of my flowers and shrubs and stuff. Come back down here to feed my beans. And then it will also have heads for the raised bed over here, as well as a couple more grow bags that I've got going. So I now have a plan. I understand I need to run a supply line here, 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 and then tie into what's already there. Let's go build. So just a quick look at some of the parts. We've got our tubing. I have a timer here. We have some drip emitters. I have the pressure reducer, the tool I ended up not using, and the different types of connectors. So one thing I'm going to do real quick is using landscape stakes. I actually stretched out that tubing across my yard so it can bake in the sun, and that'll soften it up and make it much easier to work with. I also have pulled out all the extra pieces and parts I had from my previous systems, so I've got an easy inventory of everything. I'm going to be covering all these grow bags, these 3 raised beds. There's more grow bags behind me. I'm going to go ahead and run up around the perimeter of the yard here where I have an existing run, so I'm going to tap into that and reuse most of that so that I don't have to do this new. But it's a lot of ground to cover. So first thing I'm going to do is get my valves out and start building my control assembly. I want to have 3 zones. So this vertical pipe is going to come down off of the hose, and then it's going to split. I'm going to use little bits of tubing and here a T-connector and a couple of elbows so that I can split it into my 3 zones. So adding some more PVC, just a couple inches for each one, then the valves. That sets me up with 3 downward facing zones that I can start and spread off in whatever direction I need. So to do this, I'm going to put a little bit more of the tubing and then the 2 elbows for zones 1 and 3 and a T connector for zone 2 because I want to feed 2 separate areas with that, the 2 sets of grow bags. So with this, I can kind of figure out roughly where all of my runs are going to start, which will make laying out the supply line a lot easier. So here's the full assembly as it connects to your hose. I start with the Y splitter so I can still connect my garden hose. I've got a timer. We have the pressure reducer, so this screw will let you adjust the pressure. And then this bottom piece here actually adapts the hose down to the 1/2-inch tubing. So you screw that on, good to go. Here I'm going to show you, this is how you assemble the supply line with the different connectors. You just push them in the end. It really couldn't be any simpler. I can do it one-handed, I hope. We're going to find out if I can do this one-handed. Yep, it looks like it's going in. Again, this piping has been sitting in the sun, so it's soft. I'll just tap that into a run to go over to my control valve, and I'm all set. This other side needs to be capped still. I'll show you that in a few. Here I am just laying out the first run to these grow bags in front of the house. I had this piece left over from last year. It's got 10 emitters connected to it already. So I'm going to reuse this. I'm going to add 4 more emitters because there is 14 bags in this area now. But then I already have it kind of laid out and ready to go. So what I'm going to do is just dry fit everything first. You can see that all of those emitters will reach the bags. So that's important. Make sure you leave enough of that 1/4-inch tubing to actually reach where you are putting your emitters. But now we can go back and look at the other side of this run. See, it's going to go down around these new sets of grow bags. I'm going to go down the center aisle and back so that I can have shorter runs on either side, right? So As you can see, it's wrapped around. This will make it really easy for me to add the emitters and their 1/4" tubing. So really, one great tip here, have a cup of hot water. This stuff is so much easier to work with and much easier to get the emitters in if you pull it out of a hot cup of water before you go to put your connector in. So to add the barb connector, again, all you really have to do is use a little bit of brute force. So let's take a look at this. Take the not pointed end, if you will, so that pointed end will push into the supply line. Take the flanged end, push it. Damn it.
Oh, goodness.
Try this again. Push it into the tube, right? And that's all there is to it. Again, once you push it in, you can see it goes over that flange. That's watertight. It's not going to pull back out either. All you have to do now is push this into the supply line. But we're going to do 21 more of these first, so I'm not going to make you watch that part. I do the exact same thing 21 times. And now I'm ready to put on the emitters. So same process, I just put the other end of the tube in the hot water, got it ready to go, and you just push it over that flange on the emitter. Really easy to do. Once it's on there, it's not coming off. Okay? So that's it. Now we just need to do that 21 more times. Hang on a minute. All right. So pushing these into the supply line, it really is as simple as just taking that barbed end, pushing and give it a little twisting back and forth like that, and that plastic point will push right into the supply line. There is some water in this line, so I let that leak out for a second. And now you can see it's in. That's watertight. That's all there is to it. You just have to do it for every one of your plants. So here you can see I have pulled it up. Again, really important to make sure you leave the right amount of slack. Here I'm just reconnecting all these old pieces that I had. But the same idea would apply if you're doing a fresh run. You can run your supply line right down the middle of the bed if you want, and then branch off from there. So next I'm going to show you how I cap these lines, right? I don't use the caps. I fold it in half, and I use duct tape. It will hold much better. So there you go. That's all there is to it. That is now capped. That's not going to leak. It's not going to come undone. Good to go. I like to do a quick test run at this point once I have all my lines capped. Make sure that all my emitters are working. Sometimes you'll want to adjust the flow, right? That's a little more than I want, so you can just twist it, and you'll have a more controlled, smaller flow. This is good so that you're not wasting water or spraying it on the side of the bags like that one was. It helps you control how quickly that water comes out so that your plant can best absorb it and use it. Sometimes you find a broken one. This one just needed a new cap. You can even put them on while it's running. Really, really simple stuff. Adjust it and you're done. You're good to go. That's why I like this. Sometimes it breaks, but it's easy. The last thing I want to do is bury these lines that cover my walkways. I will trip over these all summer long if they're just laying out here like this. So what I'm going to do is basically take a shovel, dig a little trench in these rocks, dig just barely into the soil. I'm going to probably pull some of this up over the winter, so use a little water to make this easier, rough it in, and then bury it. That's all there is to it, right? Now I don't have to worry about tripping over those lines every time I walk by. They're under there. I put a flat piece of rock to just kind of keep that connection point secure and safe. And I did the same thing over here where they come back out. I'm not going to bury them in between my grow bags here. That just seems like a waste of effort. I just don't want to trip over them. So we are ready to rock. One last thing to do. Let's turn this sucker on and watch it all work. Okay, so hopefully that was helpful for you to understand just the basics of how to build a drip system, right? Some of the things that I think are really important to understand is that you need to know how many plants you're trying to water, what containers they're in, right? So you need to know if you're making long runs or short runs with your emitter tubing. Plan ahead. Be aware of how much water your plants need as well, especially if you're going to be measuring how much water you're giving them. It's a great way to feed your plants. You don't have to worry about splashback from rain causing disease or bacteria or anything to get from the soil onto your plants. And well, I'm lazy, so I like to be able to just turn it on, walk away for 10, 20 minutes, come back, switch to the next zone while I'm doing all my other chores around the garden. I'm excited to have this system in place this year. Hopefully you can build your own. And if you have any questions, go ahead and hit me up in the comments. I can help walk you through my understanding of how it works. If you like this video, go ahead and hit like, please. Leave a comment below about any other questions you might have. And subscribe to the channel if you haven't. For now, we're out of here. Peace.